Hi everyone, Sophie here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of these cute little avocado keyrings. So to make your avocado, you're going to need some yarn in dark green, light green, and then a brown colour. So the brown colour is the stone, and then you've got the light green for the front and the dark green for the back. Doesn't matter of the brand, I've used KEYCHAIN Originals, but you can choose any yarn that you like. You just need to make sure that it's double knit weight, and I'd also advise using a cotton based yarn just because it's a bit harder wearing if it's something that's going to be a keyring and is going to be going in bags and you actually want it to be a bit more resilient. I'll pop a note in the description so you know exactly what colours I've used of my yarn, but as I said, any are fine. You'll also need a pair of scissors. And so you're also going to need a few bits just to make up the face of your avocado. So you'll need a set of safety eyes. So I just got these ones off Amazon. Again, I'll put a link in the description. So these are 6mm safety eyes. Don't be misled by the fact that they say safety eyes. They're not suitable for children. So don't give this to children under the age of 3 because they still can come undone. And then you'll also just need some pink and black cotton. So again, I just use cotton. You could also use embroidery thread if you wanted to. Anything's fine, just something that matches the colours you like. And that's the pink for the cheeks and then the black just to put the mouth on your avocado. You'll also need a 2.5mm hook. So as normal, I'm using one of my Clover & More hooks. I do strongly recommend these hooks, particularly if you're holding your hook quite tightly. They just have a bit of a cushion on them, which just helps a lot. And then also you're going to need a keyring, and again I got this one off of Amazon and I'll put a link in the comments. And then finally just a darning needle just for sewing in all of those ends when we're done. So today I'm going to show you this video in 2 parts. So in the first part we're going to make the front part of your avocado, so that's going to be the stone, the central green section, and then also just putting on those features. And then in the second part I'm going to show you how to make the back of your avocado, and then finally how to put everything together and sew in all those ends to make your final keyring. So we're going to start off by making the stone of our avocado. So when I was designing this, I actually wanted to try and capture the 3D structure of an actual avocado. So I've made this, instead of having something that you make the avocado and then you sew on at the end, I actually wanted this to be something that pops out of the avocado. So to make it look as much like an avocado as is physically possible when you're making it out of cotton yarn. So we're going to make stone to begin with, and then we'll attach to that the light green to finish the front. So to start with, you need to take your brown yarn, so whatever cotton yarn that you've chosen to use, and we're going to start by making a magic ring. You may also know this as an adjustable ring. They're the same thing, just different name. So to make a magic ring, this is how I make mine, I drape the yarn over my hand like so, and then I wrap around my first 3 fingers, crossing over as I do. I then turn over, and then you'll see you've got 2 strands of yarn, and they're kind of like train tracks, so they're parallel to one another on the front side of your hand. Then insert my hook underneath that very first loop and pick up that back loop, pulling that through, and I'm going to twist that round as I go. So I've made that little loop there. Then I'm going to go back to that back strand and I'm going to pull through a chain. And then we can take that ring off of our fingers because we've now secured that in place. I'm then going to work 6 double crochets, so this is a UK double crochet, in the US that would be single crochet. So 6 double crochets into this ring. It takes a little bit of practice just getting to grips with how to hold that ring. You'll find different things work for you. I tend to hold it so I keep my little finger in there and just keep it open like so. It can be a bit fiddly, but we're just going to work 6 double crochets into that ring. So if you were to just lay it out like that, you should be able to see you've got 6 double crochets all the way along. And then all we do is we take this strand here and we're going to pull on that. So hold in there, pull on this strand, and that then closes up our ring. So just adjusting those stitches, you want them all to be in the same direction. Hold on to the end like that, and then just give that a tug. And you can pull this really tightly, so as tight as you can get it, because we want to have that hip quite well sealed. You don't want to have a big hole because then you might end up with stuffing falling out of it. So then, having made and closed up our ring, this is what it should look like, something like this. And then we're gonna start our next round. So with all projects kind of like this one, you don't actually finish a round, but instead you just work in a continuous spiral. So we're gonna go straight into that next stitch there, and we're going to work 2 double crochets into each of these 6 stitches that we've just made. And you're also going to need a stitch marker, or I find stitch markers very useful because when we come to the end of this round, it's going to be handy to mark where you finished. Now don't worry as well if as you're putting these stitches in, your magic ring comes a little undone. It's fine, we can tighten it up later and we will then secure it when we sew in this end. So we're going to start in this very first stitch, 2 double crochets into each of the 6 stitches, so in total you're going to do 12. It is a little fiddly, particularly with these smaller hooks, but just take your time with it, there's no need to rush. And so there I finished my second round, and now, as I said, I'm going to take a stitch marker and I'm going to insert that in that central loop, and then that's underneath those last 2 stitches I've just made. So now this just gives me a reference for where each round starts and ends. So I know for the next round that my last stitch is going to be going into this one here. You can also just keep count in your head, but it's just good because if somebody talks to you or you just lose count, then you might lose where you are. So it's just like that added little helper. Now for the next round, we're going to work 1 double crochet into each of these 12 stitches. And at this point, it's going to start to curl inwards. That's absolutely fine, it's meant to. This is how we're making the pit or the stone. So 1 crochet, so 1 double crochet into each of those 12 stitches all the way around. And then you can see we're coming now to those 2 stitches that we've got this stitch marker in. So we've got 1 stitch into the first of those, and then 1 stitch into the second. And then that completes round 3. And we're going to do this again. So we're going to do another 12 double crochets all the way around, finishing in this stitch here. Now you can move your stitch marker up, or you can just follow the line, up to you, whichever is easiest. And you just want to go ahead and do 1 more round of double crochet, so another 12 in total. One of the things I love the most as well about these avocados is they use such a small amount of yarn. So actually you really don't need much. If you've just got some yarn left over from other projects, that's probably going to be fine. I weighed it out, and from this particular yarn you need about 1 gram of your brown colour, 6 grams of your dark green, and 4 grams of your light green. So really not much at all. So I've now just worked into that final stitch just there. And to finish this pit off, or this stone off, I'm going to just slip stitch to that first stitch of the next round. So 1 slip stitch, I'm then going to pull through again, and then I'm going to cut that off. And I'm going to leave a reasonable length just to make it easier to secure it in place when I finish all the pieces. So then I can pull that through, tighten that up, and then you can just reshape that. So if I remove my stitch marker now, you can see we've got a nice stone, And then you can see as well, like I said, this hole's come out a bit. So we can just give a tug on the tail and that closes that up again. So now we're going to hold on to this and we're going to add in our next colour. So you could just continue with the next colour, but the reason I like to finish this off is so that we have a nice round centerpiece rather than showing a spiral join. It blends in reasonably well with the rest of your avocado. So you want to take your light green colour and you want to put your stone so the dome is like so. And you want to have it as well so that you can see where you finished, where you did your final knot to secure it. We're going to then work our hook into this stitch here. So you'll see you've got this stitch where you did your knot, and we're going to go into the one next to it. And then we're going to pull through with our hook a loop of our light green yarn, like that. Now you want to hold on to the end of this yarn because you don't want to pull it out as we're working the next few stitches. We're then going to make a chain 1 just to secure that in place. And then we're going to work another double crochet into that very same stitch. So that chain 1 we've just made is going to act as our first double crochet. We're then going to work 2 double crochets into all of the remaining stitches all the way around. And we're going to start our next one. So not in this knot here, but here. So just next to it, you'll just see a little hole and you're going to work them in there. And then you're just going to continue doing these 2 double crochets all the way around. So 2 into every stitch. And this just flattens everything back out again. So you'll see when you've done this, that you'll have a flat edge all the way around your dome. So in the end, once you've done this, you should have 24 stitches, and do just double check that you have 24 stitches. And you haven't accidentally done an extra 2 by working under that slip knot. So we're finishing off, we've got 2 double crochets just in this section here. And then this bit's a little bit fiddly, but we need to start our next double crochet underneath our chain 1 that we did at the beginning of the round. So what you need to do is get your hook under both of those loops there. So you can see we've got 1, 2, so 1, 2 there, and we want to get the hook underneath both of them. It is a little bit fiddly. Mostly your issue is just you don't want to split the yarn. So there you go, underneath both of those, and then we work 2 double crochets into here. And so this then is the start of round 2 of our light green. Now you can use a stitch marker again if that's helpful to you, so you could mark where you're starting the round, totally up to you. For me, I don't find that I need to because you can see here it's quite obvious where you're starting the round from. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So into each of those pairs that you've got from the round before, we're going to work 2 double crochets into the first stitch and then 1 double crochet into the second. And we're going to do that all the way around. And so in the end, you'll have 30 stitches going round here. So 2 in that first stitch and then 1 in the second stitch. And now I think you can really see as well that dome, so that stone shape that we've got in the centre, it's really nice and prominent. I think it looks like an avocado stone should. And it just gives that nice depth and 3D look to your avocado. So we've done that all the way around now, and we're just working into that final stitch. And so now we're ready to start the next round. So here we're not actually going to grow the avocado as much as in the previous rounds, and that will make it curl a little bit, but that's absolutely fine and you won't notice that when you sew it all together. So we're going to start with 2 double crochets into this stitch here, and then we're going to work 5 individual double crochets. So you'll have 1 in the second of this double crochet pair from the previous round, and then you're going to go across the next double crochet pair that you made, and once you've done your 5 double crochets, it should then bring you to the start of another pair from the round before. And we're going to just keep doing this all the way around. So 2 double crochets in that first stitch, then 5 double crochets in the next 5 stitches. So now I've finished that repeat all the way around, and now what we're going to do is we're going to make the top part of our avocado, so now the face part of our avocado. This can get a little bit fiddly, but just like normal, just take your time and it'll all be fine. I am also just going to mark this last stitch here with a stitch marker, just so I don't lose my place. So now we're going to work 13 double crochets across the next 13 stitches. And once you've done that, you should see that that brings you to 1 stitch before this double repeat here. And into that 14th stitch, we're just going to do a slip stitch. And so it should look something like this. We're then going to turn our work, and we're going to take this yarn and we're going to wrap it around our hook so that it's on the other side. We're then going to start our next section with 2 slip stitches. And what we're going to do is we're going to start, rather than in this one here at the base of our loop, we're going to start here. So we're going to insert our hook into this stitch, underneath both of those loops, and then we're going to pull through for our slip stitch. We're then going to repeat in the next one and make our second slip stitch. We're then going to do 2 double crochets, 1 into each of the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to work 4 half treble stitches. So this is a half double crochet in the US, UK half treble. So you're wrapping the yarn around your hook, inserting, pulling through, and then pull through all 3 loops on that hook. And we're going to do that 4 times. So this is how we're getting that shape of the top of the avocado. So then we're going to do another double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And then we'll finish this section with 2 slip stitches. So 1 into that next stitch, and then 1 into that final stitch. And then once again, we're going to turn. And we're going to bring our yarn around so that it's on the other side. And we're going to start, again, not in this first stitch here, but in the second stitch. So we're going to do slip stitch into that second stitch, pull that through, slip stitch into the next stitch, then a double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then we'll do 3 half treble crochets. So 3 half treble crochets across the next 3 stitches. And then 1 double crochet to the next stitch, a second double crochet into that next stitch, and now that'll bring you the 2 slip stitches from the previous round. So these are a little fiddly, and we're going to slip stitch into both of them. So it does take a little bit of wiggling of your hook, but you end up still underneath both loops, working that first slip stitch, And then the second slip stitch goes into this section here. So again, 2 loops and pulling that through. We then turn again, bring our yarn around, and then we're going to slip stitch into that next stitch. So we're always skipping the very first stitch of the round, or the row in this case, and then a second slip stitch, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets into this stitch here. We'll then do 2 half trebles, so 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. And you may notice that all of these rounds are symmetrical, so we're always repeating what we started with is what we finish with. So 2 double crochets in this next stitch. And then we finish with 2 slip stitches. Turn again, get that yarn onto the other side, and we start once more with our 2 slip stitches. Just pulling that through, always working under both loops as well. And then we're going to work 2 double crochets into each of these 3 stitches, so 2 double crochets per stitch. So this is also known as a double crochet increase. So 2 into each of these stitches. And then a slip stitch into that next stitch. And then another slip stitch into the following stitch. And then we're going to slip stitch into this stitch here. Again, a little bit fiddly. Pull that through, and then we're going to pull through once more, and then we're going to cut off our yarn and pull that through, and that then finishes the face of our avocado. So now all that's left to do is we can take that stitch marker out. We need to secure in these ends, and we also need to add on our eyes, our cheeks, and our mouth. So first off, let's secure those ends. So you've got the end that we joined our green yarn, and then you've also got the end where we finished our brown. So all I do is I just knot those together a couple of times. Nice and tight. You don't want anything coming undone. And then I give this strand here a really good tug, just to make sure the stone is as close as can be. And then I take all 3 of those yarn strands and I tie them into one big knot. So wrapping that around, can then pull those through and give that a nice tug. And that's enough for now, and then we'll do a bit more securing later on, but it just gets them out of the way when we're doing our face. I always start with this with the eyes. So if I put this one here, so you can see roughly what we're going for. So these are my 6mm eyes. Now you should be able to see, so you've got this round here where you've got slightly larger holes. So we're going to go to the round below that one, so here, and I'm going to put my first eye underneath this stitch here. So you just poke that through, give it a little wiggle to get that in, and that's our first eye. Then the second eye, we're going to skip the next stitch and it goes into that one there. So again, just give that a little push through, and there we have our 2 eyes. You then need to add on the backs to secure them in place. Now I'm always quite careful with these because you can push the backs on very tightly, but it will then pull your eyes inwards and like compress the material, and you don't really want that. So I only ever go for 2 clicks. So you can see you've got like the teeth of these eyes, and I only ever push it so that you can see 2 sets of teeth. So there's my first click, second click, and that's all they need. That's more than enough to keep them on. And then just the same for the other one. And bear in mind that once you put these backs on, they don't really come off. So do make sure they're in the right place when you put them on. So there are the eyes. Then we want our black and our pink yarn. So these are a bit longer than my crochet hook once they're folded in half. It doesn't really matter on the length, it's more just gives you something to be able to tie in. And also it's such a small amount of yarn, I'd always rather go for a bit of excess than not have enough. So fold it in half. So you have a loop like that. We then thread that onto our needle. And then we're going to put the first cheek into this bit here. So we're going to come through from underneath in that section there. Pull that through, but don't pull it all the way through. We're then going to go into this hole here. And we're going to push our hook, and we're going to push our needle through that loop there. So this is just a nice easy way to secure that in place. So now that's not going anywhere and it's nicely secured and it's just one fewer knot to worry about. Now you don't want to pull this too tightly because you want to be able to see those two nice strands of your pink yarn. So just have a little adjust of those, just gently pull those through. There you go, like that, so you can see the two strands and you have a nice thick cheek. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to come up in this section here. And then we're going to move to this stitch here and we're going to actually go in the middle of that stitch. And pulling through, again, reasonably gently, you still want to be able to see the pink cheeks. And then there we have our cheeks. Then all I do to secure this is I just loop that yarn around and I just knot it a couple of times. So looping around, knotting it a couple of times, and I will secure this a bit more later. But for now, that keeps the cheeks in place. Then we need to add on the mouth. So again, fold it in half. Thread for your needle. And then the mouth will always be a little off center, just because of the way the stitch is. So you come in through this stitch here. Again, don't pull all the way through, and you're going to go into that stitch there. And you're going to go back through your loop, like on the pink. That's one side. Then you're going to come up in this section here. And you're going to go back to the base. And there we have our mouth. And like with the pink, I'm just going to loop that around a couple of times, just knot that a bit, just to hold that in place. And then to finally secure everything, I'm going to take this green strand, so this was the strand that we tied off at the end, and I'm going to just push that through to the other side, just my needle. So I'm just pulling that knot through. And then I'm just going to take all of these strands on the back together and I'm going to tie them into one big knot. So pulling everything through nice and tightly. And then you can give that a trim, but you don't need to worry about hiding all the ends because they'll all be hidden on the inside of your avocado. So then there is our avocado face, all done. And so then in the next part, I'm going to be showing you how to make the back of your avocado. So if you like this video and you want to see more, then please do like and subscribe to my channel. And in the meantime, happy crocheting and I'll see you very soon.